Hi folks, this is Karim Raouf from IT Visualizer channel. We will continue our lab, the Terminator lab. This is the video number 28. I have been discussing in the previous video the following. I've been still working on the steps to deploy Windows 10 using the latest MDT toolkit in addition to the Windows deployment services. So we are preparing our environment to deploy Windows 10 using these two tools we have said before. So there was a lot of things. We have prerequisites we should fulfill. We have done it. We have some steps we should do, and we have begun working on them from the previous video or the last video. Today we will continue working with the steps of how to build your MDT and WDS lab. So we have stopped the last time at this step. Before that, we have done a lot of things. We actually done some tweaking to the domain controller, some arrangements and some changing of maybe the display, the background, some things we have done to make the DC more professional, okay, and to have some arranging to our environment on the primary domain controller, okay. So still, and after that, actually, we have gone to the file server and begin installing some programs, and we all know that we will install Microsoft Deployment Toolkit and the WDS on the file server. So we have done a couple of things on the file server as well. So today we will continue working on doing some things on the domain controller. We need to create users that will be used to deploy the Windows 10. So there is some users that should be used during the deployment of the Windows 10 through the MDT. So there should be a user to join the workstations to the domain. There should be a user to install the software on the Windows after installation, and a couple of things. So this should be created in the Active Directory. So today we will create some users in the Active Directory to be used during the deployment of Windows 10 and capturing of Windows 10. So we will begin do this process, but before that we will check some things on the DC. As we can see from these steps, first of all, we need to have a reverse lookup zone. So this one of the things that Daniel Brother Barbarius is talking about. We need to have a reverse lookup zone. So we all know that when I begin working or creating my primary domain controller, I have already created a reverse lookup zone. One of the things, there is a debate if the reverse lookup zone is still needed or it is not needed anymore. There is a debate. I have read some documentation saying that the reverse lookup zone is not needed anymore, okay, and some saying it's still needed. So let me show you all what Google Brad AA have said about this. So let me show you all what is the answer of Google Brad. Google Brad have said that, let me show you all, not this one, let me show you another thing here. Here, when I ask it, do we need reverse DNS anymore? Whether or not we need reverse DNS anymore is a matter of debate. There are some who argue that it is no longer necessary, and there are ways to verify, as there are ways to verify the authenticity of an email sender. So it is basically used with verifying an email sender ID. So the emails are sent by the IP address. So you see an email that is sent to you, we know the IP address that this mail was sent from, but the reverse DNS uses this IP address and change it to a domain name, so you can know who is or you can know who is the sender or who is the domain that has sent this email. Okay, so it is basically used by the DNS or reverse DNS. However, there are also those who believe that the reverse DNS still plays an important role in email security. So some I'm saying it is not needed anymore, and some says that it is still needed. Okay, the one that are arguing for that they need it, reverse DNS can help to prevent spam and phishing attacks. When an email server receives an email, it can perform a reverse DNS lookup to verify that the IP address of the sender is associated with a legitimate domain name. If the reverse DNS lookup fails, the email server may be more likely to flag the email as a spam or phishing. Okay, reverse DNS can help you to troubleshoot network problems. So for example, if there is a problem with a certain if you are trying to ping a certain IP address and it is not replying, or you are trying to ping a PC with its NetBIOS name or its name and it's not replying, maybe you need to make an NS lookup or to use the reverse lookup or reverse DNS to translate the IP address or see if the IP address is associated with another name. Maybe the name that you are trying to ping, the IP address associated to is changed or there is something. So anyway, here the reverse DNS can help to troubleshoot network problems. If a network administrator is investigating a network problem, they can use reverse DNS to identify the host name associated with an IP address. So maybe if you are trying to ping a certain host and it is replying with a different IP address that you are accommodated to or that you regularly know, so maybe there is a problem. So you need to know which IP address is associated with what host name. This can help to narrow down the scope of problem, identify the source of the issue. Okay, so this is the who argue for the importance of the reverse DNS. Against, or the one are against it, reverse DNS is not foolproof. It is possible to spoof reverse DNS record, so it is not guaranteed. It is not a guarantee of an email authenticity. Okay, authenticity. Okay, reverse DNS can be a burden for small businesses and individuals. It can be difficult and time consuming to set up and maintain reverse DNS records. We will see that in a moment. I will show you another question I asked Google Brad, and what was the answer? Some mail providers such as Gmail no longer require reverse DNS for email delivery. Ultimately, the decision of whether or not to use reverse DNS is a matter of individual preferences and risk tolerance. If you are concerned about spam and phishing attacks, or if you need to troubleshoot network problems, then reverse DNS may be a good option for you. However, if you are not concerned about these issues, or you find the reverse DNS to be a burden, then you may not need to use it. Okay, so this is one question. Another question: what if I deleted a record from the forward DNS? Will it be deleted automatically, or it will delete automatically the reverse DNS record? If you have a reverse DNS record, when you create a record in the forward DNS, it automatically creates a reverse DNS record at the same time. But when you delete it, this is the problem. Okay, no, deleting a forward DNS record does not automatically delete the reverse DNS record. So you need to regularly clean up your reverse DNS records. Forward DNS records and reverse DNS records are two different types of records that serve different purposes. Okay, forward DNS records map host name to IP address. That's it. For example, google.com to IP address. Reverse maps IP addresses to host names. So for example, this IP address will be change it to host name. Okay, so this is the answer. It says when you delete a forward DNS record, the corresponding reverse DNS record will not be deleted automatically. This is because reverse DNS record is still needed to map the IP address to a host name. If you want to delete the reverse DNS record, you will need to do so manually. The steps for deleting a reverse DNS record will vary depending on your DNS server. So this will be a problem. If the reverse DNS, all DNS reverse records are not deleted, then uh, it will see host names that are no longer there and they are associated with an IP address that maybe it is now allocated to another host name. So this is a problem. You need to always take care. If you delete a forward DNS record for a host, okay, or a computer, you need to delete the reverse DNS record at the same time. Okay, so this is a couple of things, okay, how to do that. And this was a debate. I tried to display it for you guys because I have read this in our article that the reverse DNS is not needed anymore. So let's go now and begin our lab and begin to implement the rest of the steps that Daniel brother Barbarius have told us to create our MDT environment. So now I am booting my primary domain controller. Okay, the first thing we need to see is the reverse lookup zone. If we open the admin console and then we will open the DNS, Okay, open it. We will see that I have already created a reverse lookup zone. Okay, this is what I've done before, and here we can see a very clear example. This IP address is associated with the old domain controller. I have already deleted the forward DNS record for this reverse DNS record. Okay, so it's still there. This should be deleted manually. Okay, if for example this IP address is taken by another host, the reverse DNS record, or if you try to resolve the IP address, okay, it will resolve the old host name, not the new host name. So this is one problem. You need to take care to delete the reverse DNS records manually. Okay, so this is one thing I have already created a reverse DNS. If you try to do this, right click and new zone. This is very simple. And now to another point. Okay, Dalian brother Barbarius need to do something. Okay, he needs, if you open any if you open any organizational unit in the Active Directory that contains a computer object, he needs to see a column in the Active Directory displayed with the operating system on this computer. So we all know, if you have a computer object in the Active Directory, you have the name of the computer displayed, the location maybe, and that's it. But here we will try to add a new column to the Active Directory with the operating system on the computer. Okay, or computer object in the Active Directory. This will be done using something called ADSI. This is a tool that will add, or through it we will add an additional column to the Active Directory that is called operating systems, or operating system, which will display the operating system for any Active Directory computer object. So let's see how this will be done. So we'll open the Windows administrative tools. So this is something good. This is the tip that we all as administrators need. So if I need to know the operating system on a computer, this cannot be displayed in the Active Directory. I need to have an inventory so I can see which computer has which operating system on it, or I need to go to the computer itself and see the operating system. So this is a good tip. Okay, so we'll open ADSI edit. This is the tool, and then we will tell him right click and then connect. Okay, tell him to connect, or setting, and then configuration. You need to make sure for the first time you tell him right click and then setting or connect. Okay, it will get you this one. Make sure that you are selecting configuration, and this is up, and then tell him okay. You need to select configuration. Okay, and then tell him okay. So now we have it, or we have our Active Directory schema, and then we will open display specifiers CN4009. Don't worry, we don't need to know all of these steps. We need to see the final result. Okay, so now we need to play with something called organizational unit. So let's see here, something called organizational unit display, or this is, here it is. This is called organizational unit display. So this is concerning, we are playing how the organizational unit will be displayed, or what are the columns that will be displayed for the organizational unit, or what are the columns that will appear when you are clicking on organizational unit in the Active Directory. So let's see something here. If you open it, we need to go to something called extra column. So we need to add an extra column that will be displayed with any organizational unit in the Active Directory, called extra columns, and then we will add this. This is simply, we copy that and put it there, and this is simply, I will show you all what does it mean. Okay, so we will put it there and tell him add. This is basically the parameter or the attribute that should be or this is the value that will be displayed in the column, and this is the column head or the name of the column. Okay, and these numbers are the parameter or widths. So this is the data that will be displayed in the column, this is the name of the column, and these are the widths and the height of the column. Okay, so this is basically simple description about what that line means. Okay, So I think let me show you all something here also. Here I try to ask Google Brad about this ADSI. So let me show you all also what does it said to me. Okay, let me show you all what it did tell me. Okay, so I think maybe I have done this before. The reverse DNS, the optimal hardware. I think check the window, check some. I think no. Let me do something here. No, this is not the reverse DNS. Okay, this is the one. So here I told him to let me go further up. So I told him to analyze this line, and he gave me something. ADSI is the prefix for all ADSI queries. Operating system is the name of the property that is being retrieved. As I said before, operating system, it is the friendly name of the property. This is the name of the field or name of the column, and this is the value in the column. 0 is the index of the property. 150 is the size of the buffer that will be used to store the property value. I think this is related to buffering and something else. Anyway, so this is what Google Brad have to say about that. This is not the parameters. I'm sorry. This is not the heights and widths. These are other things. These are the buffer and other things. So I tell him to give me some examples. Okay, so and this is a documentation if you need to know about ADSI to read about it or something. This is it. This is the line. Okay, and that's it about the ADSI. No further details about it. So this is very simple. Now we need to go and open any OU and see how to add the additional column. So let's see that. We'll go to Skynet and then go to mainframes. This is an OU. We can see here that it doesn't contain anything. We need to go now and tell him view, okay, and then tell him add remove columns, and then we will see operating system. Okay, it appears, and then tell him okay. So now we will see another thing added. Okay, if you open again Skynet mainframe, here we can see this is the operating system. Okay, we can see here this is the operating system very clearly. We don't need to go and get it from the computer itself. And here he is suggesting some Active Directory layout. I have already done this layout. If you see my layout, I have under each OU we have computers, and then we have servers or mainframes, and then we have security groups, and then we have admins, and then we have users. So we have something similar to what Daniel Brother Barbarius suggested as an Active Directory layout. We have done all of this, so we will not do that anymore. Here we need to create an admin account, or to use an admin account. First we need to create an admin account that will be used during the deployment and capturing of Windows 10. This account will be used to join maybe computers to the domain. It will be used to maybe install programs and something like that. I think this will be used during this one. Okay, and we need to create a normal user to test the computers after deployment and capturing. Okay, so we have two users. One is an admin account. Okay, we will use it to install some programs and to do some operations with it, or to do operations that need administrative privileges. And then we will use a normal user to test the environment or test the Windows after deployment or after capturing. And we need to create a SQL admin group. In this group, we will add Daniel Brother Barbarius or the admin account. So by doing this, it will be responsible for managing the SQL database. So we can see here that this admin account will be a member of domain admins, enterprise admins, schema admins. So we'll have full control over the domain and the domain controller and any computer in the domain. And then this account will be added to the SQL admins group. So by doing this, he will be responsible for or we have full control over the SQL database, which in his lab is attached to the WSOS. In my lab or in my modification, the SQL will be attached to the MDT toolkit. Okay, I will use it in conjunction with the MDT deployment toolkit. Okay, so this is the third step, and the last step is to make an account called MDT.build. This account will be used to deploy the Windows 10 and capture the Windows 10. So this will be do all the process. Okay, so by the way, I think I have some mistake in something here. This account, it will only be used to manage the SQL database. Okay, so I'm putting him here in giving him administrative privileges and then putting him in the SQL admin group so he can manage the database. As for this account, it will be used to deploy Windows 10, install software, and join computers to the domain. So this is the real hero here. This is the one that we will use, or this is the account that we will use to deploy Windows 10, to set up software, to join workstations to the domain. Okay, so these are all, we need to create them one by one, and don't worry, in the future we will see every account and what does it do exactly. So let's go and see. So now I have already an account like that, but this is with my name, and I am a member of an IT group. Okay, I am a member of an IT group. This group is a member of domain admins, enterprise admins, schema admins. So with this user, I am fulfilling what Daniel Brother Barbaris is stating in his notes. Okay, so if you go to the security groups and then open the admin group or the IT group, I am a member of it. Okay, see, I am a member of this group, and then this group is a member of the domain admins, enterprise admins, schema admins. So now I can fulfill this this step. Then we need to create a normal account. I will go and create a normal account. Okay, and it will be a member of a group called domain users. Okay, so anyway, we now will create okay, this is not the account I need here. Just I need to make a user to be a member of the domain user. So we'll create a normal user, okay, and then create it. Karim Raouf, and then we see it as normal user. Okay, then K Raouf norm. Okay, this to differentiate it from my domain admin account. Okay, next, and then we will set a password. Okay, next, finish, and then we'll put a description to the user just to make it more organized. Normal user to test MDT deployment. He is a member of the domain users. This is the only thing we need. A limited user with limited privileges. Okay, this is the one, and then we need to create the SQL admin group and then put the admin account in it. So we'll create a security group and we'll name it SQL admins. So I'm just renaming or copying the format of this group. We'll make another group. Okay, and then we will paste it and then change it to reflect SQL. okay, not admins, to be AI SQL admins, okay, and then we will put the IT group. I will not put Karim or the admin account or the domain admin account of me in it. No, I will put the whole group of the IT, so anyone can be a SQL admin, okay. So now this is the group. Then we need to put a description. Just you need to be an organized person or need to be an IT professional one. Everything should be created professionally and everything should have a description. So now we will put the description and then we will type SQL admins, and then apply OK. And then members, here I need to put the IT group to be a member of this SQL admin group, and the IT group is a member of domain admins, enterprise admins, schema admins. So we have fulfilled also this condition that Daniel Barbaris is stating in his steps text file. Okay, so now we can see that here is Karim Raouf, okay, and I am a member of the domain admins and enterprise admins and schema admins. So we have created the SQL admins group. Now we have added, I have already done this, and then we need to create an MDT.build. This will be a service account. It will be used to deploy, or we use it to deploy Windows 10, capture Windows 10, install software, join workstations to the domain, all of this. Okay, so this account I will create it as an admin, okay, or to be like a member of the IT, and then I will add it to the IT group. So by adding him to the IT group, he will get all of the privileges that the IT members got, which is they are domain admins, enterprise admins, and schema admins. Okay, so this is basically I'm giving him full control. And after we finish the deployment, we can delete this user safely. Okay, so now we're giving him a name, MDT.build, and this will be a service account. So his password should never expire, because if the password expired, the MDT deployment will stop. Okay, so this account should be a service account and the password of it should never expire. Okay, and if you intend to use it later, you need to change the password manually every now and then. Okay, now we need to make sure it is a member, so we'll add this this user to be a member of the IT group, okay, which is a member of domain admins, enterprise admins, and schema admins. So now it's a member of IT group. So now we have already done everything. Okay, if we open the IT group, we will see that now SQL, so now MDT.build is a member of this group. Anyway, so now we have done, we need to put a description. This is one thing also. So now all of this, we are preparing the environment. We are creating the users that are needed to test the deployment, to manage the SQL database, to use it to install programs and install Windows and join workstations to the domain. So all of this is very, very critical before installing the MDT tool. Okay, to build. Okay, here we can see this description: to build the deployment. Okay, so this is basically a very critical user that will be used a lot in the upcoming videos. So now we have created the MDT. Now we need to make sure there is a couple. First of all, the MDT.build, this is an account that should not be authorized to log in locally to any machine. It should only be used through the domain and through the deployment process. So it is not a local administrator. Okay, it is only used inside the domain. It is not authorized to log in locally to any machine. Okay, so this should be done. We need to do this through a group policy. Okay, we need to deny login locally for this account on any machine in the domain. Okay, it is only authorized to log in through a domain. So we'll do that. We'll tell him default domain policy, and then we need to go to policies and then security. It will take some time. Then go to security, and then go to local policies, user rights assignment, not security options, user rights assignment, and then tell him to deny login locally. Okay, and add the user. Okay, this is number one. Check now. Okay, this is the user that should be denied to login locally. Okay, and now we need to do or to make a group policy, and this should be applied on the file server. Okay, we need to allow the firewall uh, to allow ping, which is ICMP. This should be inbound and outbound, so we need to create a rule to allow pinging on the file server. Okay, and this also should be a default rule on the domain. Okay, so this is not only related to the file server, this should be related to all of the PCs, because this is a very important tool for the network administrator to test the conductivity to the clients and servers. So this should be enabled on all of the Windows firewalls, on all of the servers and workstations. So this should be in the default domain policy. And then we should enable file and print sharing. This should be done on all of the domain actually, because not on the file server. I have done this in my environment. So this should be also allowed. Okay, I think maybe inbound only, not outbound. And SQL ports, this also should be allowed, because the SQL port on the file server should be allowed by the firewall, because there will be a communication between the MDT server, which will be on the file server, and the clients. So and on the with the clients, and the MDT has already a SQL database. The clients will query the MDT SQL database to get their names. So there should be, or the connection to the SQL database should be allowed. Daniel Brother Barbaris, his SQL database is attached to WSOS, so this is critical. If the clients are trying to communicate with the WSOS database to record their name in the SQL database, this also should be allowed. So we should allow SQL communication. Okay, SQL ports inbound. Okay, not outbound. So let me show you all some inbound rules I have configured in my default domain policy. Okay, I will show you all these default rules, and we will add these rules as Daniel Brother Barbaris have said. So let's go and see the rules. If you go and open the firewall, Windows Defender Firewall, okay, and then let's see the inbound. I have already some inbound. If you go there, inbound rules, here we can see these are the default rules I have already allowed to bypass by every firewall or Windows firewall in every server, on every server and workstation. So file and print sharing are allowed on all firewall, and remote desktops, this will allow me to communicate or to have a remote session to any server workstation. Remote schedule tasks, this is also a good thing. If I need to create a scheduled task remotely, this service should be allowed to bypass the firewall. and Windows Management Instrument. All of these services from remote to Windows Management Instrument is related to remote connections, PowerShell remote connections. All of these are related to remotely accessing machines through PowerShell or through remote desktop. So these are very critical. All of these are enabled on the inbound rules. Okay. As for the outbound, maybe on the ISMP, of course, ISMP is the echo request. This also, I think in inbound it should be only in the inbound. Okay, not the outbound. Anyway, so these are default rules that should be in any organization, should be allowed. Okay, file and print sharing, as you can see here, and the remote desktop and the remote service and the remote schedule task, remote desktop, Windows management instrument. Okay, so this is thing we need to add a couple of rules as Daniel Brother Barbaris have suggested. But let me show you all how we can do this. For example, if you need to add file and print sharing, how we can do this, let me show you all. We will right click and tell him new rule, and then there is a predefined, open predefined. Then we will see here there is file and print sharing. So if you add this, it will add all of these services at once. Okay, so this is what we need. One of them is the echo request, which is ICMP version 4. Okay, this is how we can add these rules. Next, and then allow the connection, and then finish. So this is basically how we can do that. Okay, we have added them, and then we will add a couple of rules. The SQL, okay, so now let's continue and see the other rules. So now we need to add SQL ports. Okay, we will create a rule with the SQL ports. So we will create a rule to open all of these ports, and they are in inbound an inbound direction. Personalized. I think here I am just trying. Yes, I need to have the control panel icon on the desktop just to make it easier for me to access different Windows options. Okay, so this will ease me accessing all of the different Windows options. Okay, so we can go to themes and then go to desktop icon setting and then check control panel. Okay, and apply and OK, and then we can open control panel and see something. I think maybe the Windows Firewall, maybe, I don't remember. So I think here it is related to, yes, here is the Windows Defender Firewall. We need to make sure it is already closed, okay, on the server. As you can see here, the Windows Firewall is opened. Okay, so this is a problem. Okay, we need to make sure it is closed on every server because it will make a problem. I have said before, it is not a security issue because we don't have internet access on these servers. Okay, so the closing Windows Firewall is a best, not a best practice, but is a recommended thing to do because it will block most of the connections. Okay, you need to always or regularly create rules to bypass services and ports. Okay, so I have already closed the firewall, so now everything is good or good to go. We need now to create or continue creating the rules or the SQL port rules. Okay, inbound, and then tell him to create uh, all of these. We can put it all in one rule. Okay, so this is inbound, right click and tell him new rule, and then tell him port by port. This is not by a service. Okay, this is by port, and tell him next. And then we can add, if you if these numbers or the service or the sorry, if the ports are not in order or after each other, for example, they are not uh, for example, not like this from 5000 to 5010, if they are not in consequence, or they are not in sequence, so you can add it a port then a comma, a port then a comma, and like that. Okay, so we'll add all of these ports, okay, one by one. Okay, so all of these ports are allowed. Okay, next, allow the connection. So this should be done on the default domain policy, because as I said before, the SQL database will be related to the MDT. But I think no, I think this can be done on a group policy that will be only applied to the file server. Okay, because the SQL database will not be used regularly. Okay, so anyway, we tell him SQL ports and then finish. So you can choose to make it in a separate group policy, or you can make it through the default domain policy. Anyway, this should be applied to the file server and all of the clients that will connect to the file server or to the MDT server. Okay, so now we can see that all of these things are we can now change it is related to something, and now we have done all of these. Now we need to go, and what we need to do now, we need to go and take the sources. We have programs that you have downloaded from the prerequisite step, the captured programs, or the programs that will be installed during the capturing, and the programs that will be installed during the deployment. We need to put them on the file server and share them, and then after that, when the MDT try to reach them, it will reach them through these shared folders. Okay, so we will see that, but let's wait for a moment. Still, here I'm just playing with the display or something. This is just to make sure that the display is correct. Anyway, this is not an issue, so I cannot change the resolution of the screen. So now what we need to do, we need now after that to install two services on this file server. One of them is the branch cache, which will help us to increase the performance or enhance the performance of the deployment process and the capturing process, and the data duplication feature, which will help us to reduce spaces or to free some space on the file server. So these are two features that are or should be installed on the MDT server, okay, to make the deployment process more faster and to save space on the file server, okay, and the MDT server, of course. So here I'm just checking to see if I have the file server feature itself installed on the server. If we go and open the manage, so this is not it's not important, we have done this before. If we go and tell him manage, anyway, so now we need to go here. I'm just checking that the server manager, it is already not initialized during the login process. Okay, so all of this we have done, all of these steps. Okay, we have the Explorer or this PC, we have done this already. Open File Explorer to this PC, we have done this before. All of these options we have done this before on the file server, and we need to do it on the domain controller. We can just revise it. Okay, so this is file extensions. We need to enable it to display known file extensions and to open on this PC instead of quick access, view and then hide icons. So these are all things we need to this is something like organizing your environment. Okay, so this is better. Now we can go now and begin the second step. Okay, now we have finished working with the primary domain controller. All of this is done on the primary domain controller. Now we need to go and create a share. Okay, and this share will contain a folder called capture and deploy. We have seen this before. These two folders will contain the programs needed during the deployment and during the capturing process. This shared folders or shared folder that contain the two folders will be hidden. It's only known by the MDT, and it will be only accessed by the MDT. Okay, so now we need to go and do this shares, and before that we need to install the branch cache feature on the file server and the data duplication feature on the file server. So can you hold 1 minute, guys, just a moment. So let's continue, guys. Now we will begin installing these features, and we'll show you all a little bit of description about this feature, or these two features actually. So now this is the file server. We will log in. Okay, this is the welcome banner. Okay, I'll put my domain admin account. And then I will log in. It will take some time. You can see all of these steps are very simple. No complicated issues. Now we need to create a folder and share it and put the capture and deploy folder in it. Okay, and this share will be hidden. Okay, we will not do that in the D partition. Sorry, we will do it. Let me show you all. So we'll do it in the E partition. I have created a partition, and this partition will contain all of the MDT files. So we'll go that and create a folder here. Okay, so now we need to create a folder here. We'll name shares. Okay, okay, here you can get from the computer management to see all of the shares on a machine. You can get it from the computer management. Here I'm just checking if there is any shares that are not authorized. Okay, I'm just checking my shares on my file server. So let's now continue working, or let's create the folder called share s $. This will contain the capture and deploy folder in MDT lab or in the folders of Daniel Brother Barbaris. So let's right click and properties. Who will have access to this folder? The MDT.build user and the domain admin group and the system. Okay, so now go to the permissions. We remove everyone, and then we will add MDT.build. This is the important user or the service account, and then we add domain admins. okay, and then we will add system. Okay, so this is one thing, and all of them will have full control. So this is the thing, and then we will need to do that also on the security or the NTFS permissions. Okay, so we'll do that. We'll go to security and make sure we have the same. Okay, system is already there, so we need to add MDT Build and the domain admin accounts. Okay, and then this share will be hidden, so now we can see that both are already working. Both should have full control. Okay, full control, and MDT Build will have full control as well. So apply and OK. Now we have the folder shared. We need to go to copy the deploy and share folder in it. So we need to go and we will create a capture folder. Okay, you can copy the folder as a whole directly, or you need to create a folder. It's called capture and deploy, and copy what we have downloaded before and put them here. Okay, as we'll see, it will inherit the security permissions and the sharing permissions from the parent. Okay, so now we can see that the shared folder is already there. Now we need to begin or to install the, let's see, the data duplication feature and the branch cache. So we need to install both features. Okay, so we'll copy that and then begin installation. And one thing I need to show you guys here, something related to this feature or these two features. Here we will see that, let me show you all something here. Here I have asked Google Brad AI what is the Windows File Server branch cache feature or what does it do. It is saying the branch cache feature is a Windows File Server. In Windows File Server is used to optimize network bandwidth utilization when serving files to distributed branch offices. Here's an overview of what it does. It caches frequently accessed file server contents locally at branch offices. This avoids retrieving the same files repeatedly over the WAN caching process. When a client at branch requests a file, the local branch cache first checks if it is already has a cached copy. If yes, the file is served from the local cache, which is much faster than retrieving it from the data center file server over the WAN. Okay, if the file is not cached locally, the branch cache retrieves it from the file server, serves it to the client, and then adds it to the branch cache. Okay, subsequent requests for that file at the branch are served from the local cache. Branch cache can be distributed. Each client has its own cache or one hosted or one cache server per branch. So this can be on the client or can be on one server, cached server. Okay, or a server but will contain the cache, or it will be on every client, so will be a cached file folder or cached files on every client, or cached files on one server. Okay, and it will be distributed to all of the clients. It reduces bandwidth utilization expensive WAN links by eliminating duplicate remote file transfers. Key benefits are faster faster file access at remote offices and optimization of WAN utilization. In summary, branch cache transparently caches frequently used files locally at branch offices to allow fast access and minimize transfers over the WAN to improve performance. Let's see the other question. What is the importance of using this feature with Microsoft Deployment Toolkit and Windows Deployment Services for deploying Windows 10 images? This is another question. Using branch cache with the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit and Windows Deployment Services for deploying Windows 10 can provide some important benefits. Fast imaging speed. The Windows 10 image files will be cached locally after the first client install at a branch office rather than pulled over the WAN each time. This improves deployment speed. If you need to deploy Windows 10 images over branch offices or from a centralized location, or if you have a main office and branches, the branch cache will help you. If there is the scenario of a main office and branches, then the branch cache will help to fasten the speed of the deployment. Okay, so for example, if you have your MDT server in the main office and your client in one of the branches. So the branch cache will help you to make the deployment process much faster. Okay, this is one thing. Reduce WAN bandwidth utilization. Not having to transfer the large Windows files repeatedly over the WAN link saves network bandwidth. Improved scalability. With the image files cached locally, more clients can be imaged simultaneously at each site without saturating the WAN link. Better performance site or better remote site performance. Sites with lower WAN connectivity see the biggest improvements in imaging speed when using branch cache. The local LAN is much faster. Okay, for sure, if you are retrieving files from the LAN, it's better than retrieving it from the WAN connection. Simplified deployment. With branch cache enabled, the same image file can be deployed efficiently to any branch site without needing to replicate data or configure multiple distribution points. Cost saving. Reducing bandwidth consumption lowers ISP cost, Internet Service Provider, and can prevent proceeding additional bandwidths for imaging purposes. So in summary, enabling branch cache provides centralized management while optimizing WAN utilization, improving deployment speed, scalability, and performance when imaging remote sites using MDT and WS. So this is basically when we are deploying images through or remotely or to remote sites. If you are deploying images to remote sites, the branch cache will help you. So the last question, what if there is only one site and branch cache enabled? In our scenario, Daniel Brother Barbaris have enabled this branch cache, but we are only one site, or this is a lab. So will branch cache help us in this scenario? If branch cache is enabled in an environment with one single site, there is no real benefit to having turning it on. So this is one thing. The purpose of branch cache is to cache content locally at branch offices or branch office locations. It is designed for distributed deployments. With only one central site, all clients are local and do not retrieve data over the WAN. So this is basically very thing or logical thing to think about. Enabling branch cache on the file server will create a cache that clients can use. However, since the clients are accessing the data on the LAN, the cache provides no performance boost or WAN optimization, so it is not needed. The cache on the branch cache host will consume additional disk space unnecessarily. Okay, so extra memory and CPU resources will be consumed on the branch cache server for unused caching processes. So it will be a headache on the server, on your LAN network, and on the client side. It will be also on disk space or unnecessary disk space. So no WAN bandwidth reduction is possible if there is no remote WAN site. Management overhead is increased for no benefit. In summary, with only one site, branch cache provides no advantage and consumes additional resources. It should be disabled in single site environments to save on hardware resources and administration overhead. The benefits are only seen in distributed multi-site configurations accessing file servers over the WAN. So in Daniel Brother Barbarius lab, it will not be a benefit for us because the lab is small, the lab is in one location, it's over the LAN, okay, it's not over the WAN. So this is good for multi-site configuration. So this is this is a description or explanation of branch cache. What about data duplication feature and what does it do and how does it works? Explain in simple terms. Data duplication feature in the Windows file server provides a way to optimize disk storage by eliminating duplicate copies of files. Here is a simple explanation of how it works. It scans, so let's go there, it scans the file system and indexes all files by looking at their content, not just names. So it scans file systems and index all files by looking to their content, not their names. So it is checking for duplicate, not duplicate names, but duplicate content. Okay, any files with identical content are considered duplicates. All unique files are stored fully, while one copy of the duplicate is stored. Okay, so if you have, for example, one file and there is 4 copies of it, the data duplication will remove every copy and leave only one copy and the source file. Okay, for subsequent duplicate files, it stores just the reference pointer to the one fully stored copy. Okay, this one maybe not clear. I will ask him another question to make it more simple, okay, to explain it in a more simple terms. This reference takes very little disk space compared to storing full duplicates. When duplicate files are read, the file system transparently returns the fully stored copy using the reference pointer. Users see no change in the access to files. DUPs appear as individual files. However, storage is optimized behind the scenes because only one copy of a duplicate is actually stored. Duplication ratios of 2 to 1 or 3 to 1 are common. So 2, I think here is referring to that every one or every 2 copies are referring to one, maybe to one file, or 3 to 1 anyway. So in essence, data duplication minimizes storage by eliminating redundant duplicate files in the file system. It stores only one copy of duplicates to optimize disk utilization. The optimization is invisible to users. So let's tell him to explain. Here I am telling him to explain from this point, from the point number 3 down to the point or the last point, because I have already understand the 2 points, but from point number 4 to the end I didn't understand it. So I'm telling him to explain it in a more simple terms. So here is saying, let me explain the data duplication process starting at point 3 in simpler terms. The system finds duplicate files that have the same content. It keeps one complete copy of the file fully stored on disk. For the other copies, duplicate files, it does not fully store them again. Instead, it creates a small pointer or tag for each duplicate. This pointer takes up very little space, just a few bytes. It points back to the one fully stored file copy. When a user opens one of the duplicate files, the system looks at its small pointer. The pointer tells it where to find the fully stored copy. The system automatically gives the user the fully stored version as if it was the duplicate. Okay, and at the end, so the duplicates doesn't take up full space, just the tiny pointer. The user still sees separate files and can open them normally. By the storage is optimized behind the scenes using the pointers. So in very simple terms, it keeps only one copy of a duplicate file fully stored. Other copies become small pointers that reference the stored copy. This saves a lot of disk space while users still access duplicates normally. So this is basically what the data duplication does or what the branch cache does. So let's continue and see how we will do this installation. So let's go and install the branch cache and the data duplicate. Here before that I need to open the server manager to see if I have the file server feature installed. I have already installed it before, but just to double check. So as you can see here, all of these features are very important, and you can see that the AI is helping us to understand a lot of things, and it is dynamically answering. So you can ask it and then re-ask it and then ask it to add more details, ask it to explain more in simple terms. So this is a very good way. This is far more advanced and good or better than just searching it on Google or getting it from a search engine. Okay, so here I'm just checking if I have the features file extensions are appearing, and there is a couple. I'm just revising my setting. Okay, and this PC, so this is setting we have done this before. So this is better. Now we need to add the data duplication and the branch cache. But before that, I need to make sure that the file server feature is installed. It is already installed, but just to make sure, if we go there and tell him open this one and then tell him manage. So here I'm just checking to see if the file server feature is installed. Okay, so this is one thing. And then let's see if we have anything left. So just making some pointers or just I'm just making like a note where I have stopped or where I need to stop. Okay, so I'll stop at that point. Okay, and let's go and install the branch cache and the data duplication. Okay, so here we go. Okay, we will stop the video and then need to go and see if here is the files and storage service. We can see here that it's already installed, and there is a couple of services that are currently not working, but they will work automatically. Okay, this is stopped automatically, but they will work. They need some time to start. And then if you go to manage and tell him add roles and features, we need to make sure that the file server feature is installed. Next, and there is the file server and storage. Okay, and then open the SCSI one, and then this is the file server installed. Okay, we can add the branch cache for network and the data duplication. You can add them from here. This is the graphical interface, or you can add them from the PowerShell. Okay, so you can tell him cancel, and then we will open a PowerShell. You can see you can do this by right click and open as administrator. Then we need to put the command. Okay, now I need to go and copy the command. Copy, and then paste it. Right click and paste and install, or press enter. And then after installing the data duplication feature, you need to enable it on a partition, or on a partition to check for duplicate files. So I will activate it on the E partition and D partition, and tell him to run this feature regularly at 12 a.m. in the morning, just to make it regularly, or to run it regularly to check for duplicate files on the E and D partition, and to run it regularly. Okay, we will do that. So first of all, we are installing the FS branch cache. So this will take some time. Then we'll pause the video. Okay, and it will take a couple of minutes. I think I can pause this real quickly. Okay, if you go there, we will see now. If you open there, here we can see it is already installed. Okay, true, success, no restart, branch cache for network files. Now we will add the duplication feature. Okay, FS data duplication, and this is a very good feature, by the way. I think if I didn't work with this feature before, but this should be a good one, because it searches for duplicate data, and this saves a lot of data on the file server, especially if you have large duplicate files. So now we can see it start installation. After that, we need to activate it on the partitions that we need to remove duplicate data from. Okay, so this will take some time. I think we can pause this. It will take some time. Maybe you can pause this real quickly. So anyway, it is already there. We need to enable. Okay, so now the feature is installed. We need to enable it on the E partition. So this is the other one. We need to go there. You can see it is already installed. Okay, also success, no restart, data duplication. We need to enable it on the E partition and on the D partition, and then configure the service or the schedule service running, or this feature should be scheduled to run in certain intervals. So now we will enable the data duplication on the volume E, okay, or partition E, and then we'll put it on the D partition. This contains the file or some source files. So now we have all of them working. Now we need to exit and then go and configure the data duplication schedule. Okay, so we'll go to the server and then open file and storage, or we'll wait for a couple of minutes. Okay, so now this is file and server storage, and then we go to volumes, and then we need to configure. Let's see now here. So this will take some time, and then the volume will appear. Here we can see we need to right click on the partition and tell him to configure the duplication or duplication schedule. Okay, so let's go there and tell him right click and then configure data duplication. Okay, here it will run on a schedule. Okay, the general, this is the purpose of the duplication, general purpose file server, so we can use it, and then tell him to set duplication schedule and then enable throughput optimization. This will run from 12 a.m. and it will be duration 4 hours. Okay, and this is the days. Okay, so now we will do that, and then we'll do this for the E and D. I think they already will be the same, so I'll try to see the E partition will be the same schedule. Okay, so this is basically how we can configure data duplication schedule. Okay, this will be done in regular intervals every day in the week at 12 a.m. Enable background optimization, so this will be done. And by this we have already done all what Daniel Bravo Barbaris have told us, especially some parts concerning the file server and the domain controller. In the upcoming video, I think I will begin configuring the Windows deployment services. We have already configured the DHCP, so we will configure the WDS first, and then after that we'll begin configuring the MDT. So let me see if there is anything else remaining. I think now I will shut down maybe the machine. Okay, I think yes. So we have done this. We need to verify that the share, so the last thing we need to verify the share, the hidden share, it is working or not. So we tell him run, and then let's see if we can access the share, because this is a very important step. We need to see if we can access the share so the MDT tool can access the share during deployment. So we'll type the server name and then type share. Okay, share $sign. Okay, share $sign, and then slash or enter. Now we can access these ones. Okay, so this is basically what we have done in this video. We will stop there. These commands are done already, so I think now we will close all of this. We will shut down the servers. Okay, and the upcoming video will begin working with the DHCP and the WDS, and the one after it we will begin working with the MDT toolkit. Hope this video for you all, and thank you all for viewing. Thank you so much.